Deirdre was an actress from the East Coast who moved to Los Angeles to make it big in the movies. But she didn't find fame or glory or even a leading role. What she found was that the City of Angels had its share of demons, both figurative and literal. Deirdre grew up in a small town in North Carolina. She was a dancer and had been dancing in talent shows and recitals for years. After some good reviews and encouragement from her friends, Deirdre packed her bags and headed for Hollywood. She had big dreams of starring roles, red carpet premieres, and exciting film shoots in exotic locations, but audition after audition, and she couldn't land a part. 6 months in, and Deirdre was getting turned down for role after role. She got a call from her friend, Julie. Julie was a dancer and was hired to be in a music video, and the producers were looking to replace another actor who had dropped out. She asked Deirdre if she wanted to be in the video, and she said yes. The video was for a heavy metal band, and the theme was a satanic sacrifice. This immediately gave Deirdre pause, because she grew up heavily involved in church and was apprehensive about taking part in a shoot that involved Satanism. But Julie reassured her that it was going to be a lot of fun. After being fitted for some skin-tight leotards and satanic robes, the girls entered the set. Deirdre was excited. It was her first job in Los Angeles, and she was living the dream. Initially, they shot the scene with the band's lead singer playing a girl on an altar, and Deirdre was going to be playing a background part, just a girl who was one of the cult members. Julie was reading an incantation and sacrificing the singer. And they shot the first day, and Deirdre had a great time. She felt assured that this was going to be a great music video. She liked the song, being a fan of female-fronted mathcore power metal. She got along well with the singer of the band, as well as the other actors, and she was really enthused about her first gig in LA. Then, she got a call a few days later. The singer of the band asked to reshoot the scene. The singer did not like looking at herself on the altar. She decided she didn't want to be the sacrifice and wanted to recast that role. Julie offered to play the role of the sacrifice. This left the role of the cult leader open, and Deirdre was asked to play the role. She gladly accepted, having never done a murder scene in the film. Deirdre was a fan of horror films and was very much looking forward to stabbing someone on camera. And Deirdre got her first lead role playing the mad, satanic cult leader. The video would begin with Deirdre doing a slow and sexy dance for the camera. The director asked her to make eye contact with the camera and to dance as seductive as possible. Despite a religious background, this was not entirely out of Deirdre's comfort zone, so she took to it well and improvised a sensual and sexy dance. And Julie was told to writhe in bliss on the altar, like she was in a state of orgasmic ecstasy. Deirdre was then told after the dance, she would then approach the altar where Julie was writhing. Then Deirdre would have to read some passages from a book, and then pick up a prop knife and plunge it into Julie's writhing body. The director called action. Julie began writhing sensuously on the altar, and Deirdre began her slow and seductive dance as the cameras rolled. After dancing to the heavy metal track for a few minutes, Deirdre then danced her way over to the altar, and she began to read from the book. The director was very specific that she had to read the exact words that were written in the book. It was Latin. Deirdre didn't know Latin, but she did the best she could. She did her first take well, and everything seemed to go well. The director wanted to do another take as he felt the lighting needed to be adjusted, so a second take was done. Deirdre got back on her mark and began her slow and sensual dance again. Later on, Julie would recount how she suddenly became overcome with an odd feeling. She felt as if the room had grown incredibly heavy with a sense of sinister evil. She said it was so thick that she could feel it swirling in the air and moving through her body. She would later confide in Deirdre that her writhing on the altar was not an act. She was genuinely in a feverish and unexplained state. She said her limbs became tingly and she felt hot and restless. She felt there was genuine evil in the room, but was too weak and too consumed by it to do anything other than writhe in pain. When she continued to writhe in between takes, the crew thought she was just being a method actor. Deirdre once again began reading the incantation, but this time, something felt odd. Deirdre described it as feeling like a presence had entered the room. It was mild at first, like a creeping dread oozing through the walls from some other realm. She said it had the feeling of death, as if something truly evil was watching her from behind some two-sided glass. They finished the second take, and now they needed to change camera angles. This was going to be the close-up that Deirdre always dreamed of. She began to get herself emotionally prepared for this take. The director called action. At this point, Deirdre felt the presence in the room. Its overwhelming feeling was very concerning to her, as Deirdre started to think that maybe the incantation she was reading was summoning some demonic spirit. She was also concerned for her friend, Julie. If there was now a demonic presence in the room, Julie's writhing body was being offered to it as a sacrifice. She had no idea what to make of that, or if she should say something. But this was her first professional job in Los Angeles, and Deirdre didn't want these people to think she was insane, so she said nothing. The director asked for another take of the close-up. He told Deirdre he wanted real anger and rage to emanate from her face while reading the incantation. She was a trained actor and knew how to summon that kind of emotion well. They did the take, and now Deirdre began to really feel the presence feeding off of her intense emotion. She said she felt herself filling up with rage in a way she never felt before. Then it was time to do the stabbing. Deirdre had a prop knife. It had a retractable blade that would disappear into the handle when pressed, giving the appearance that the blade was plunging into Julie's body. She was at first apprehensive. She brought the blade down, and the director asked her to do it again. A few more takes, and he felt her stabbing was not vicious enough, so he had her do it over and over again until she got it right. Deirdre said, watching herself plunging the knife into her friend's chest, accompanied by the rage she has just conjured up during the prior takes, had made a lasting impression on her. This was overwhelming to Deirdre, and after the shoot, she began having nightmares about this. At first, she kept dreaming about stabbing her friend Julie, but then Deirdre's sister from North Carolina started to appear in the dream. This is how she would describe the dream. She said she would dream that she was at the music video shoot, but her sister was on the altar instead of Julie. She could see that her sister was in distress, but Deirdre couldn't do anything. She was like a passive observer, simply watching as her sister's soul was being ravished by some otherworldly presence. Her sister writhed and moaned in ecstasy and agony, similar to how Julie did during the shoot. She said that she could then feel herself taking part in the ritual, as if she didn't have any control over herself. She danced around her sister's writhing body. She read the incantation just like in the shoot. Funny thing is, though, because she read that incantation so many times, she knew it by heart, and in her dreams, she would read it word for word. The more she read, the more domineering and oppressive the evil presence would feel, and soon the room was overflowing with evil. She could barely stand it, and her sister was suffering so terribly that she couldn't be still. Instead, she screamed and writhed on the altar. Deirdre could sense that evil was invading her dreams and using her love for her sister as a way to infiltrate her soul. Then she said it was Julie who would stab her sister in the heart, and that she was helpless to stop her as her best friend plunged the knife into her sister's heart over and over again. Each night, Deirdre would see her sister on the altar, writhing in agony, only for Deirdre to walk up, top her, pull out a knife, and stab her sister in the heart. She found this dream considerably upsetting. Her sister was very near and dear to her, and the idea that she would ever harm her was something that haunted her every night. Each night, Deirdre would wake up in a cold sweat, terrified that the dreams were somehow prophetic and that her sister was in danger. In the morning, she would call her sister to make sure she was okay. She began having this version of the dream night after night. Her sister was a church pastor back in North Carolina, and she had a hard time seeing her religious sister writhing on that altar night after night. After the shoot, she could not shake the nightmares, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this presence had been summoned at the shoot and was with her. She asked her sister to fly out to Los Angeles and help her, but as soon as her sister arrived, she immediately sensed the presence in the house. The sister started casting the demon out of her, calling in her friends for support. This deliverance session went on for hours and hours. Deirdre's sister is part of a deliverance ministry. In Christianity, deliverance ministry refers to groups that perform practices to cleanse people of demons and evil spirits. These groups attribute certain people's physical, psychological, spiritual, and emotional problems to the activities of these evil spirits in their lives. Not all Christians accept the doctrines and practices of these ministries, but Deirdre's sister and her church certainly did. Deliverance is meant to cast out demons, helping people overcome negative influences, feelings, and experiences through the power of the Holy Spirit. Each event is different, but many include some or all of these significant steps: diagnosis, naming the demon, expulsion, and some form of action taken by the afflicted person after their deliverance to keep the demon from returning. The difference between deliverance and exorcism, that while exorcism focuses largely on possession and is for believers and unbelievers alike, deliverance focuses more on spiritual oppression and is more for believers. In both cases, in casting out spirits, intercessors are following the example of Jesus and his disciples given in the New Testament. The deliverance went on for hours with Deirdre writhing in agony the entire time, bucking and convulsing on the bed like a mad woman. By the time the deliverance was done, Deirdre was exhausted and had slept for almost 12 hours. She decided to leave Los Angeles and return to North Carolina, where she attends her sister's church every Sunday. When the music video was finally released, Deirdre vowed not to watch it. In fact, she hasn't even been tempted, despite it being the only time she's ever appeared on film.